And for more on this, we're now joined by DK Joshi, Chief Economist at Crystal Life from Mumbai. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast.
Thank you for having me.
To begin with, what are your key expectations from the budget in terms of fiscal policy and inflation control?
Well, I think as far as the fiscal policy is concerned, government had laid out some sort of a medium-term path where they want to reduce the deficit to 4.5% of GDP by 25-26. Now, the issue is that if you look at the global context, there are rising risks, not only geopolitical, but also from the tariff side. So the global environment is not very supportive of growth. So in that case, we need to pull the domestic levers of growth. And the one domestic lever of growth is the fiscal policy. And here, I think the budget becomes very, very important driver of India's overall fiscal policy. I think states also play a role, but the central government starts the process. Now, so I would say that they might stagger the deficit reduction a little bit to bring to have some more money to spend on infrastructure, on supporting consumption, etc. So that's the broad direction of fiscal policy. By the way, from 26-27, they propose to move to a different benchmark, which is not fiscal deficit to GDP, but debt to GDP. Now, coming to your second part on the inflation, well, I think if you look at the dynamics of inflation in India, it's largely food-led. The non-food inflation is merely 3.1%. So food inflation problem has risen because of changes in climate. You have your rain pattern shifting, heat waves, etc. All those impact agriculture productivity. So I would say that you need steps to ensure that the food inflation remains under control. So because it has a large weight of about 46% in overall basket. So without controlling food inflation, you can't control overall inflation. Here, I would suggest three measures. One is, I think, you need climate resistant crops. We're already developing them. We need to press the pedal hard on that. Second, I think we need food processing so that we can smoothen the prices. Food processing essentially means that you have food supplies, particularly perishables, available at the time when there is volatility. So I think that can help. And then finally, I think you need the cold supply chains. With this extreme heat, etc., the spoilage in vegetables and other perishables like fruits rises. So I think if these three things are focused on, I would say that will offer a durable solution to inflation control in India.
All right. And that being said, just to expand on this further, what can the budget do to push up the investment cycle?
Well, I think there are three drivers of investment. One is the public sector, which is the government. The second is the private corporate sector. And the third is the household sector. So what we have seen in the post-pandemic recovery is that government has been doing its part in terms of creating more infrastructure, which has higher multiplier effects on the economy. Household investment has also been good because the real estate sector has revived. Only the corporate sector, private corporate sector investment is a bit on a slow lane. Now, I think there are two things that can be done. One, I think the government investment targets, I think they're not being met in the last 2 years. So I think we need to have projects which are shovel ready so that whatever government commits in the budget is able to deliver that on the capital expenditure front. And then I think so this will reduce the time and cost overrun. So basically you need shovel ready projects, a pipeline of those. Now coming to private corporate investment, I think corporate sector is in very good health. I think the balance sheets are good. The capacity utilization has risen somewhat. I think despite these things, despite government having cut the tax rates for the corporates and this also having a PLI scheme, I think the corporate investment has been a bit slow. And that's to do with the very uncertain environment that we are dealing with right now. Now, the tariff, there is a fear of Chinese oversupply. And then I think the domestic corporates are a little worried on that front that whether they'll be able to compete or not. So you need a very clear tariff policy from the budget, which will give some kind of a direction on how the inputs will be taxed, how the intermediates will be taxed, and how the final goods will be taxed. So I think once you have that, I think that gives a certain uncertainty, that reduces the uncertainty for the private corporate sector. And then I think, so my sense is that the PLI schemes, etc., will support private investments going ahead over the long period of time. The issue is how do you push that fast? And here I think what economic survey alluded to, which is deregulating the economy, more reforms, I think these are the things which will lead to a durable uptake in private investment so that the government is in a position to hand over the baton to the private corporate sector.
All right, and there is a significant slowdown in consumer demand. What's your take on this, and what measures would you suggest for that?
Well, I think consumption demand has been pretty uneven. I think sometimes it is the high income category versus low income category. Sometimes it is urban versus rural. In 23-24, we had the rural demand was weak and urban demand was strong. In the current fiscal 24-25, we have urban demand weakening and rural demand remaining strong. So I think now, so the immediate concern is to address the urban demand issues. Here, I think there is no, the eventual solution to firing consumption demand is to create higher incomes in the economy, to create more job opportunities, etc. But in the near term, the fiscal policy can play a role to support that, support the consumption demand. And here, I think what is being talked about is some kind of a tax cut for in the direct taxes for urbanites, which will largely benefits the urbanites. And I think so we could expect some tinkering in the income tax rates. The second is the government can also support consumption, at the same time create assets by building, supporting building of houses, the Awas Yojana, urban and rural. So that is actually, it's not a giveaway, it's not a freebie, but you are actually creating assets also in the process. So that is the second route which the budget can use. And I think beyond that, I think if food inflation comes under control, which it is moving down right now, I think you will also, and the fiscal policy, as I said, I think is going to be is not going to be very expansionary. In these conditions, we could see RBI cutting rates, and that would help the urban shore up the urban demand going ahead because credit penetration is higher in urban areas.
Right, and of course we know that the growth estimates appear to fall in line with the IMF's projection, that's about 6.5%. Do you reckon that will suffice in aiding the effort to be a developed nation by 2047?
Well, I think as going by the current definition of developed nation, I think you'll need a much faster rate of growth than the current rate of growth. I think you'll need maybe close to 8% GDP growth. By the way, the definition of advanced countries in dollar terms, which includes your nominal growth, which also includes how the exchange rate behaves. So there are various factors that come in, but the growth is fundamental, how fast the economy grows. And I think I believe that we need to grow a bit faster than what we are witnessing currently.
Right, and what's your view on the government's plan to bring down fiscal deficit?
Well, I think it will be a gradual process. I think the correction in fiscal deficit has been quite remarkable. It was 9.2% of GDP in during the pandemic time. Now it has come down to this year. I think we'll get the numbers soon, but it will be below 4.9% what the government budgeted. And I think the target is 4.5. But as I said, it could be a bit staggered given that you need to press domestic levers, fiscal levers to push growth up. So the fiscal path, it's on the consolidation, but the speed can vary. So far, government has been fiscally conservative. They have always stuck to their targets. Let's see in a few hours whether government is going to do that or is it going to relax its targets.
All right. Well, Mr. Joshi, thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with your insights on this. Of course, how things pan out will be clear to us in a short while from now.
Thank you so much.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.